Hello and welcome back to Silver Age Silver Screen, the podcast where we watch, discuss, and review sci-fi, cult, superhero, and other stereotypically geeky films. I'm your co-host, Casey Jarms.
And I'm your other co-host, Riley Thorpe.
And Riley, to start off this episode, I'd like to talk about a really weird conversation I had the other day with an acquaintance of mine. So, this is a girl. I have college classes with her, and she just says, when we're in a 15-minute break between classes, so I really want to fuck Doc Ock.
Who doesn't? I mean,
to be fair, and she was specifically talking about Alfred Molina version. It varies depending. But Alfred Molina, he's not hot as Doc Ock. I don't think he's super attractive, but he has that swagger, that poise, yeah, Doc Ock's kind of hot in a DILF way.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, not I suppose. I think it's absolutely warranted.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of DILF Spider-Man villains.
Yeah, there are.
Green Goblin, Sandman, Vulture. But anyway, that's not the weird part. I asked her, so why Doc Ock? And she's like, well, I don't really love him, but I have this fantasy where he kidnaps me and holds me hostage for several months, so I develop Stockholm Syndrome. Okie doke.
Yeah.
Also, wouldn't that apply to any villain then? If, I would fall in love if he held me captive? I don't know. That was a weird encounter, and it's my bridge into this week's episode. We're talking about the second Sam Raimi directed Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. It's the one with that sexy guy that my classmate wants to kidnap her.
Yeah, Beast from Beauty and the Beast, right?
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know.
All I know about Alfred Molina is he's in this. He's gonna be in another Spider-Man movie in 2 months that I'm kind of pumped for. And shit, that is all I know him from.
He's been in a couple other movies. Boogie Nights. They made a movie based on William Shakespeare's The Tempest a couple years ago. I heard it was horrible, but, that's neither here nor there. Point is, we are reviewing the second Spider-Man movie directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Alfred Molina, James Franco, and a bunch of other people.
The same cast as the last one, really. Just swap out William Dafoe for Alfred Molina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. So, this Spider-Man movie is considered by many to be one of, if not the greatest superhero movies of all time. We reviewed the first Spider-Man movie a couple months back, and we reviewed the Amazing Spider-Man before that. So,
and honestly, this is a really good superhero movie, a good contender for the best we've watched on this show. It's not the best superhero movie. It's not even the best Spider-Man movie. Into the Spider-Verse is. But this is really, really good. It's considered by many, and I go back and forth on this or the original, to be the best in the Sam Raimi trilogy. This is just overall a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's cheesy as fuck. It has not aged well at all, but that's kind of part of its charm.
Right. This was, for a while, actually, the first Marvel movie to win an Oscar.
Okay, when you say win an Oscar...
Best visual effects.
Okay, yeah, that is what I expected, because there's winning an Oscar, and there's winning an Oscar. I feel like Heath Ledger winning an Oscar for The Dark Knight and the makeup team winning an Oscar for Suicide Squad are very different things. I feel like visual Oscar... I don't know what I'm going with this. There are a lot of bad movies that have won visual Oscars.
There was a Benicio del Toro movie called The Wolfman that was released 11 years ago. It's considered by many to be one of the worst movies of that year. It was nominated for Best Sound Design.
Although, to be fair, this is not a Suicide Squad in terms of...
in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. It deserves visual effects Oscar nom, and also it probably deserves a lot of praise for other things, because this is just a good movie. Like we talked about when we did the first of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, that we love Spider-Man as a hero, and these movies are very good at getting what Spider-Man is. The acting's a bit awkward, but overall, these are great stories of just what makes Spider-Man work. Him being this common man, down on his luck, having to balance between life and being the hero, struggling under the weight of with great power comes great responsibility. And also the villains are cheesy, but they're fun as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. They actually changed writers for this film, one of which, I forget his name, but he is like one of the great iconic Hollywood screenwriters. Point of what I'm trying to say is they had a change in the writers, and because of that, they tried to make it as compelling of a drama as possible, but at the same time, they still tried to keep it as in the same universe as the first one, where it was a bit cheesy, a bit campy, a lot cheesy, a lot campy. So the film is incredibly well written, and that comes from the fact that the filmmakers, they understood the character of Peter Parker. And they understand how to handle him. And they did so. And they understood that they just need to beat the living shit out of him mentally, emotionally, and physically throughout the entire film.
I mean,
like, this movie has dark moments.
I mean, that's a terrible way to phrase it, but yeah, this movie beats the shit out of Peter Parker emotionally. Like, the most important thing about Spider-Man in the comics is that his life fucking sucks. He's constantly tortured, and then he mopes and goes on the bridge and whines about how he couldn't save Gwen for the 20th time that year. They repeat that scene a lot. But yeah, Spider-Man in the comics, he is a tortured soul, and this movie is just horrible to him. And that segues into how this movie starts, with Spider-Man working as a pizza delivery boy so he can pay his rent. That's the real villain of the movie. New York City rent prices.
One thing I would like to mention, the title sequence of this movie is amazing. They have like Alex Ross-esque illustrations of Spider-Man and the events of the previous movie. It's amazing. For those of you who don't know, Alex Ross is a comic book artist. He works with chalk.
He was Kingdom Come, right?
Yeah, he illustrated Kingdom Come. He's an amazing artist. Just the level of detail and style he has to his illustrations. It's amazing. And that's what the title sequence is like. Then it cuts to Peter Parker delivering pizza for Admiral Zhao.
Yeah. Asif Manvi, the Daily Show guy. He played Zhao. He also appears in this movie for one scene before he was, known for the Daily Show. That's cool. As Peter's pizza shop boss, who's like, hey, we need to get this pizza there in 30 minutes, and I'm only giving you 10, and I'll fire you if you can't do it. It's on the other side of the city where you physically can't do it. And honestly, I'm glad that's not really a thing anymore, because holy shit, that is the worst thing. 30 minutes or it's free. A, it caused a bunch of car accidents, which is why pizza companies stopped doing it. But B, you can imagine how many just awful people were horrible to high school student pizza workers. Excuse me, it's been 32 minutes and now your boss is gonna yell at you. God, that just, it sounds awful. Being working class sucks is the theme of this movie.
From there, Peter Parker basically, he recognizes that he can't deliver the pizza in under 30 minutes. So he just decides, you know what? I'm gonna Spider-Man this bitch.
Yeah.
And he runs into the alleyway, dresses up as Spider-Man, and starts swinging throughout the city. Which is hilarious to me because there's a guy that sees that happen. This guy run into an alleyway and then Spider-Man just swings out. He goes, he stole that guy's pizzas. That guy is played by comedian Darnell Rollins, who is funny as hell. And that's the other thing too, is this movie just has so many weird, bizarre cameos by comedians, predominantly, and Darnell Rollins is one of them.
Is this why people think Spider-Man's a menace because he keeps stealing pizza? Also, I would like to note, it's a good thing she didn't pay for those pizzas. Setting aside the fact that it was 5 minutes late, if you're swinging by Spider-Man and, rotating and flipping the boxes, those pizzas are going to be destroyed. At one point, Spider-Man sets the pizzas down on a building, and a guy takes a slice, and Spider-Man, steals it back with his webs. Great, now the pizza's covered in fucking spider webs?
And old people germs.
Yeah, are his webs edible? I don't think so. Although I would like to note, as kinda dumb and funny as this scene is, it is really good.
Yeah.
Because as he's swinging through, he sees some kids about to be hit by a car, and he swings down and he saves them, even though it will make him late and he'll get fired and not be able to pay his rent. Like, it's very good at setting up what the core conflict of this movie is. Spider-Man trying to have a life and be a person while also saving people's lives because that's his responsibility.
Yeah, this opening scene really sets the tone of the movie. It's very zany. There's a hint of camp, what with especially that guy. He webs a single slice of pizza away from him, and he saves people. It really goes to show Spider-Man's character, while also setting the tone of balancing the fun with the drama, mostly fun. And it just sets a really great tone.
And after that, Peter, well, he was 5 minutes late. He gets fired by Admiral Zhao, which is a shame, because Admiral Zhao, like, if he had Spider-Man, he could have committed genocide so much. I don't like this joke anymore. I'm gonna drop it.
Yeah, I will change that by adding this certain really small detail that I noticed personally. It's the scene where Peter Parker gets fired, and Admiral Zhao rips off the pizza place sticker from his helmet. That scene is a perfect description of who Sam Raimi is as a filmmaker. Like, it's so small and so inconsequential, but it perfectly sums up who he is in a very specific way. When he rips off the sticker, it's fucking hilarious. But it's also really fucking depressing.
Yeah, like the sticker doesn't come off because it's a sticker, so like half of it's on his helmet for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, so it's like, it's at the same time, it's so funny. It merges the tones of comedy and drama so well together, and merging genres is what Sam Raimi is known for. Like, he loves taking horror and comedy, action, and all that. He's a big fan of merging genres. And that just little tiny moment in this movie is a perfect example of that. And it's exemplified throughout this entire series. So it's just, for me personally, knowing Sam Raimi, knowing his style, that just little tiny moment is just him having fun, doing what he does best.
Yeah.
Merging tones.
Yeah. And after that, we get a few more scenes of life just being shitty for Spider-Man. He misses a college class.
By Dr. Kirk Connors, who was wasted until The Amazing Spider-Man, who in my opinion is not a very great movie, but watch our episode where we discuss that.
I mean, he's actually a character as opposed to just like, hey, that's the guy from the comics in this one. Mm-hmm. Do you think there was any plans to have him be the Lizard? I don't see that guy who they hired. I forget his name. He's like a comedy actor, pretty minor. I don't see him as playing an intimidating villain. The guy who played him in Amazing Spider-Man, Lizard isn't the greatest villain, but he did a pretty good job. He did a good job when he was Kurt Connors.
Yeah.
Lizard as
No, I don't think the guy that played him in this franchise, I don't think they would have used him. I think he's just a side character that's a good Easter egg. But the point is, I'm just saying that character Kirk Connors leads to the Lizard, who is a compelling villain. And they didn't utilize that at all until the next franchise. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Spider-Man also goes to his birthday party, where the audience gets recapped a bit on what happened in the last one. Because, it's been a few years.
Mm-hmm. 2 years.
Well, yes, it would be 2 years.
In the show, it's 2 years. Or in the movie, it's 2 years.
In the movie, it's 2 years. I'm pretty sure
Since Uncle Ben was killed, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, his uncle was murdered. Harry blames him for the death of his supervillain father. Mary Jane's in love with him, and he's in love with her, but he said no because he's Spider-Man. It's all very tragic. He has an awkward birthday party where he's like, oh, I want to get that Spider-Man, and I hate you for not helping me get that Spider-Man.
Because Peter got a job as a photographer at the Daily Bugle, which we saw in the last film. This, once again, leads to the greatest casting in any superhero movie ever. I will fight you tooth and nail to the bitter end. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is the greatest casting in any and every superhero movie, period. I will fight you to the death on that.
Okay,
and
geez,
we see more
deal.
scenes of him, and we even get the iconic meme of Peter asking him, "Can you pay me in advance?" And he just starts dying laughing. That has become a meme. That is a pop cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, but
that's how iconic this man's performance
But he needs that money so he can give it to his landlord, Mr. Ditkovich, who is named after one of the creators of Spider-Man, except with a Vich, because he is Eastern European douchebag. He wants his rent money. And this isn't the one where the door is broken, but I still have to say it. I'll give you the rent money when you fix that damn door. Damn, I'm Spider-Man.
Pay me rent. That guy, Mr. Ditkovich, is another amazing character.
Casting.
Not funny character.
Funny, yes.
Character, hilarious, funny character.
Yeah.
He is just this hard-ass, selfish guy that always wants his rent. Pay me rent!
Yeah. And also he has a cute daughter who has a crush on Peter, who I actually think has more chemistry with him than Kristen Dunst.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
They have a really... cake scene?
Yeah, it's really sweet.
Actually, yeah, that's actually...
Yeah, I like Ursula. Yeah. Although, when he does hit on her in the third one, it's, no.
Then again, he's also in a cringy subplot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Spider-Man 3. I am always a defender of that movie, but there are aspects of it. But yeah, life sucks for Spider-Man.
His aunt has a birthday party planned for him. There's some awkwardness with Mary Jane and Harry Osborn. And Aunt May is having a lot of struggles. What's the actress name that plays her? Rosamund something? Rosamund? Point is, the actress that played Aunt May was incredible. She brings so much emotion to this scene. Especially when she hands him the money and is like, "No, take this," and starts crying. She says that she resents the person that's responsible for killing her husband, Uncle Ben. And Peter is struggling with that guilt because he feels responsible.
Yeah.
Because he theoretically could have stopped the guy that killed Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Except that guy didn't kill Uncle Ben. It was Sandman.
So,
also, Aunt May can't afford to pay for a house because her husband's dead. Wait, hold on. Wasn't Uncle Ben already retired?
Yeah.
Shouldn't she still be getting his pension? He's an electrician. Don't they have unions? Whatever. Point is, she's losing her house now, and it's all sad. Everything fucking sucks for Spider-Man. But hey, he likes Mary Jane. She's gonna be in a play, The Importance of Being Earnest, which is a play by Oscar Wilde. I haven't read or seen it. According to Wikipedia, it is a farcical comedy in which the protagonists maintain fictitious personas to escape burdensome social obligations. Oh, how fitting. And Spider-Man's totally gonna make it to the play on time so he can be good to his friend / maybe possibly girlfriend, but not really.
He tries to make it to the play, but he gets stopped at the door by a character played by Bruce Campbell, who makes a cameo in all 3 of these movies, directed by Sam Raimi, who, had Sam Raimi made a 4th one, it would have been revealed that he was the same character all along. He was Mysterio.
Okay.
It would have just been
I'm down for that.
Bit of a tangent. The 4th one would have been, the opening scene would have been a montage of Spider-Man defeating a couple other Spider-Man enemies, like Rhino, Electro, and Mysterio. And the plot would have been Spider-Man walks into the police station with Mysterio tied up, and he takes off the helmet, and it's revealed to be Bruce Campbell. He was the same character all along. The fight promoter, the theater worker, the French restaurant employee, he would have been all Mysterio the entire time.
So what is his scheme? Because that's before Spider-Man's even Spider-Man. Okay, I just gave this guy a superhero name, and then he became Spider-Man, and I know his identity, so I'm gonna stalk him, and I'm going to make his love interest get mad at him, and then later I'm going to help him with an awkward proposal, all part of my masterful 7-year-long plan to take over the world. Mwahaha! I'm Jake Gyllenhaal.
That would also imply that this one character knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
I mean...
So you'd think that he would do more with that information than just make a 7-year plan to screw him over in really subtle ways.
Yeah, and I thought the dumbest thing that I heard about the canceled fourth one was that it was going to have Peter cheat on Mary Jane with Black Cat. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't go through with that. But yeah, Peter, he tries to go to the play to see Mary Jane, but he gets distracted by doing Spider-Man shit, and he's like 2 minutes late for the play, and the doorman, Ash from The Evil Dead, just says, no, you can't go in, the door's closed.
I love that. I love that scene.
I'm Mysterio.
I love that scene, because he's like, shoelace? Okay, you might want to straighten your tie there a little bit. Okay, yeah, no, I can't let you in. It's so funny. But yeah, he keeps missing the show. I will say, one of my few flaws of this movie, I do feel like MJ is a little hard on Peter. Like, unrealistic. He's a friend that promises to meet her at her show, but he's not there. Like, I get that she'd be upset, but, like, she essentially cuts him out of her life.
Yeah. Also, it's a show that runs multiple nights. Like, Peter, do not say a specific date because you know you're bad with dates. Just say, I don't know when, but I'll try and see it in the next few days. Boom! Movie plot solved.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's going bad for Spider-Man, but hey, here's something nice. Harry helped him set up a meeting with this cool scientist dude named Otto Octavius, who's building a fusion reactor in the middle of New York City that is like a mini sun and can power the entire world, assuming it doesn't blow up and kill 8 million people. And Peter meets Otto Octavius and they become friends and have lunch together. Mm-hmm. Aw, what a nice mentor. I hope that he continues to be a good friend towards Peter throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that's interesting about Spider-Man villains in particular, is that they are pretty much all just science experiments gone wrong. And Doc Ock is no exception. He is married to, what was his wife's profession? She loved poetry.
Yeah.
And he was a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know, opposites attract. And Doc Ock has heard of Peter Parker. He's familiar with his genius, but he's also familiar with his
laziness. And laziness is actually him going out and saving people's lives. So not really an accurate advice to give him, but yeah, he tells Spider-Man, don't be lazy.
Doc Ock takes Peter under his wing, and Peter tries to be like, hey, are you sure that doing this experiment, you know, in the middle of New York City is the most intelligent idea? And Doc Ock is like, honey, he thinks I'm trying to blow up New York.
I just imagine, like, the Always Sunny openings, how some character says something and then it contradicts it. Like, Max says, I'm gonna befriend my dad. Then the title, Mac kills his dad. I imagine that, like, I'm not gonna blow up New York City. Title, Otto Octavius almost blows up New York City.
There was this TikTok I saw. Someone made an edit of Star Wars Episode 1 where Qui-Gon meets with young Anakin and he's like, it's struggle to be a Jedi. It takes a lot of training. It's very dangerous. Anakin goes, I'm not scared. And then it cuts to that, like, title sequence. It says, Anakin kills all the Jedi.
Oops.
Doc Ock is planning on creating a new eternally sustainable energy source.
Yeah, it's a fusion reactor, which, I mean, that's a real thing scientifically. It is nothing like what it is in this movie, but yeah, building a fusion reactor, that's cool. It could provide a ton of energy for the world. Let's see this science experiment to create it. Okay, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, so...
It's just an exposed ball of fire, and you're prodding at it with metal arms? Why is no one wearing glasses? Why aren't there, like, blast shields? Everyone probably has cancer now and is blind. And why do you need arms, like, attached to your spinal column? Couldn't you just, like, use a robot? I have so many questions about this experiment.
And here's all the answers. Plot convenience.
Yeah, he has 4 metal arms that... I don't know if this is true. I saw someone on Reddit say it, that originally when they were going to make the MCU, they were thinking of having these Spider-Man movies be canon to them, but then the series got canceled and they decided against it. They were going to have a line that Tony Stark built those arms, which is interesting. Maybe he'll be mentioned in No Way Home.
Dr. Otto Octavius created these AI-powered robotic arms that connect directly to his spine, and he can control them through his mind. But he makes it clear that despite the fact that the AI is so powerful, there's an inhibitor device in the machine that prevents them from taking over his mind. He starts
that doesn't get broke.
He opens up the machine, but it's too powerful. Like, the entire place goes into chaos.
Yeah, it just starts attracting all the metal in the room, which fusion reactors do, I don't know. And everyone tries to run away, and everything starts going wrong. Peter turns into Spider-Man to, shut down the machine, and Doc Ock actually stops him, no, I'm arrogant, I'll fix this. This machine can't explode and destroy everything. Oh, look! All the metal on the windows got pulled into the machine, bringing shards of glass towards my wife, and there's this phenomenal shot of her dying where it shows her reflected in the glass as it flies towards her and stabs her in the eyes. Wow, that's a really cool horror movie death from Bruce Campbell. And shit, my wife's dead. And now the fusion reactor's blowing up and electrocuting me, and these arms are welded to my spine. Man, it sucks to be me, Otto Octavius.
Yep. Spider-Man comes in, saves the day, saves Harry Osborn's life, and Harry Osborn is don't think this makes us even. Which, side note, for 5 years, that butler knew that the wounds on his father's body were made by his own glider, and he held that shit to himself.
I mean, that's the third one, but yeah. And it's even worse later in this movie. Why can't Spider-Man just say, I didn't kill your father? Boom! 2 movies worth of plot completely canceled. Just by Spider-Man saying, hey, I didn't murder your father. He killed himself by accident. Also, who gives a shit? He tried to murder 30 children earlier.
The practical effects for Doc Ock's arms, which in the close-ups and stuff, all the arms are practical. And they are incredibly well done. Alfred Molina is incredible. This character could have been cheesy as hell. A fucking guy named Dr. Octopus. That could have been stupid as fuck. But goddamn, he is the best Spider-Man villain in the movies. Alfred Molina does an incredible job.
Yeah.
From there, we cut to the hospital scene where Doc Ock, he's knocked out. All the surgeons are about to cut off the robotic arms from his body, but the arms gain sentience and kill all the doctors in cold blood. Then immediately after that, Doc Ock wakes up and is horrified by what he's become, runs out to the street, flips a taxi, probably kills a couple people there, and just runs away. It is horrifying. It's very clearly done by Sam Raimi, who is a master of horror. It's horrifying. Yeah. And a lot of people may criticize it for going too over the top, but no, it clearly demonstrates the tragic state of this character. And it's really effective, really well done.
Yeah, that scene of the arms killing the scientist, that is a fucking slasher movie. It's great. Also, I just realized that 5 minutes ago I said that Bruce Campbell directed The Evil Dead.
I caught that, but I didn't say anything.
So there's a scene where Peter, he calls Mary Jane to apologize to her, and the phone goes dead because he didn't put enough quarters in. And then he, in a really nice moment, says to the dead phone what he wants to say to Mary Jane, that he's Spider-Man, that he loves her but can't be with her. And it's a nice scene, but I just have to imagine, you're doing this on a sidewalk, just pan a little to the right, and there's a guy standing there, mouth agape, holy shit, you're Spider-Man! I'm gonna tell everyone.
The theme for this entire movie is, can Peter Parker exist while Spider-Man exists? And he starts struggling with that. His personal life starts to fail, his academics, his family life, his friends. It just all starts to go downhill because he spends so much time being Spider-Man, being the hero, making the sacrifices that no one else can or is willing to do. And at this point, he also even starts struggling with his powers. His vision starts to go away again. He starts to be unable to produce the web fluid, which in this series, in this continuity, is produced organically through his wrists as opposed to web shooters. So he is struggling with his identity of, can he be Peter Parker while he's also Spider-Man? And can he be Spider-Man while he's also being Peter Parker? Like, he's struggling with that identity, and that is an incredibly compelling, dramatic plot in this entire movie. He makes this choice where he goes, I want to be with MJ, but I can't because I have too many enemies. And while all this is going on, she's actually moving on with an astronaut named John Jameson, who is the son of J. Jonah Jameson, the editor of the Daily Bugle. And
are you telling me that John Jameson III is the son of John Jameson Jr.?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to note, like, this movie, he isn't really much of a character, Jameson Jr.
Nope.
He's just in a few scenes as the rival love interest. He's much more important in the comics, where he's a superhero. But they mention that he's an astronaut who played football on the moon. Which, I mean, it's what he is in the comics. But he was created in the 60s is the thing, when we had moon missions. We haven't had one since 72. But that means that in this continuity, there is still, up to 2004, NASA moon missions. This world is awesome. I mean, sure, the city keeps almost getting destroyed by supervillains, but NASA exists and gets proper funding.
And what's funny, I was actually going to bring this up. John Jameson is, in the comics, as you mentioned, he's an astronaut because he has a, quote, has a terrible relationship with his father, J. Jonah Jameson, obviously. He has such a terrible relationship that he wanted to be as far away from his father as possible. So he decided to go to the moon. And while he was on the moon, he found like this asteroid that had a bunch of alien magical crystals inside of it. He touched the asteroid and became a space werewolf wearing a suit of armor. And he became the superhero, anti-hero Man-Wolf.
I don't actually know much about him in the comics. I just know this movie, they had him appear in an episode of Spectacular Spider-Man, but that was in his Captain Jupiter, which is another identity he's gone by in the comics. And also, I'm pretty sure in the comics he dated She-Hulk for a while.
Yeah, I mean, She-Hulk has dated. Every woman in every comic book has dated every man. Because horny male audience.
I do like how I saw something, it's from a recent X-Men comic. You know how the X-Men films and kind of in the comics too, they have that awful Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey love triangle?
Yeah.
Well, currently in the comics, Wolverine just lives with Jean and Scott, and it's implied that they just have an open relationship and they aren't angsting anymore.
I mean, who wouldn't want to fuck Cyclops and Wolverine at the same time? Just saying. But the reason why the reason why I bring up Man-Wolf as such a long tangent in this review is because in Sony's current quest to capture the magic that the MCU has captured, they're in early development of a Man-Wolf movie.
Oh, I'm so excited.
This was like a year or two ago. They announced that they're in early development, in addition to their Morbius movie, which is never coming out.
Wasn't there just a new trailer?
Yes, but they've delayed it for like 3 years.
So what? There's a trailer now. It's gonna come out eventually. It's not the New Mutants.
I'm joking.
Which did come out eventually, so that doesn't even work.
Their Black Cat and Silver Sable movie that became 2 separate solo movies, neither of which are happening. Their Kraven the Hunter movie, which cast Quicksilver, Aaron Taylor Johnson in the lead role, and that's the last time we heard of it. And then they announced Man-Wolf and another superhero, like another really obscure character from the Spider-Man story. Point is, nothing has come out since they announced that they're in early development of it. But last we heard, Sony is in early development of a solo film starring John Jameson III, the character that is so fucking forgettable in this movie. You literally could cut him out and it would be no different.
Honestly, yeah, probably.
Yeah, my son, the astronaut.
So, Spider-Man goes to a bank with Aunt May. And it's, of course, the same bank that Doc Ock chooses because, everything in New York City revolves around Peter Parker. But yeah, he goes to a bank with Aunt May to try and refinance her house so she isn't homeless. And the banker is played by Joel McHale, who plays Jeff on Community. I forgot he was in this movie. But as they're talking to him, Doc Ock shows up to rob the bank. I do like how quickly he goes off the rails, Otto Octavius. My machine exploded, my wife died, I couldn't be wrong, I'll just rebuild it. Actually, we missed it. There's a scene where he's down in the ruins of his machine and his tentacles are talking to him. It's really nice and creepy.
I love that scene because you don't hear the voices of the arms. All you hear is soft shrieking noise. And the way Alfred Molina plays it off, you can tell these things are messing with his head. And it's incredible.
It's terrifying. Yeah, they whisper to him, and he immediately goes full supervillain. He goes to a bank to rob it. Side note, what he steals from the bank are big canvas bags full of coins with dollar signs on them, because this takes place in a cartoon, I guess.
Yeah.
And, Spider-Man shows up to fight him, and he tries to kill Spider-Man, saying, "You've foiled my plans for the last time, Spider-Man, I say, during our first fight."
Spider-Man was there during the first fusion reactor.
I know, but for the last time, that implies they've been doing this shit for years.
Yeah, I suppose. That's a great action scene, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. They, fight on the side of a building. He kidnaps Aunt May.
Oh, God, so good.
Yeah, side note, Peter runs off to change into Spider-Man, and he just ditches Aunt May, and she's like, Peter, don't abandon me! I'm being kidnapped by Doc Ock! And how the scene ends is Doc Ock's about to kill Spider-Man, and Aunt May just bonks him in the head with her umbrella. Aunt May MVP!
Yes. Spider-Man saves her, brings her down, and at no point does Aunt May recognize the voice, body shape of the boy that she raised for 22 some odd years.
Yeah. I do prefer my favorite version of Aunt May in live action would probably be Sally Fields, especially in regards to knowing Spider-Man. She knows Peter is Spider-Man. This is not the thing we discuss. I really like that, as opposed to this where, thank you, Spider-Man, this person who I've never met before, who isn't my nephew Peter. I will never recognize your voice.
I actually disagree with you on that. I think she does know. In this movie, she does know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. That scene she gives where she's moving out of her house and she's like, people need heroes, and that whole spiel, I think that whole thing is she knows he's Spider-Man. That's not explored in the sequel, clearly, but I think she does know. Through the cues she gives after this scene, she knows. But yeah, we also forgot the scene when they named Doc Ock.
Right. It's just a short scene in Jameson's office, and it's great. One of his reporters what about the name Doc Ock? Nah, that's stupid. And then Jonah goes through 3 names. Wait, I've got it. We'll call him Doc Ock. This is the idea I came up with. Also, talking about people knowing that Peter is Spider-Man, I do like that they all but state in this movie that Robbie, one of Jameson's reporters, the old guy, he knows that Peter is Spider-Man. There's a scene where, who's gonna stop Doc Ock? Maybe Spider-Man will do it, I say, glancing at Peter Parker I know. Also, in that scene, one of the names he throws out, Doctor Strange. Wait, no, that's already a guy. Excuse me, time! Doctor Strange exists in this continuity?
Yes, he does. Which is fitting, obviously, because Sam Raimi will be directing the next Doctor Strange movie coming up.
If this is in an alternate timeline of the MCU, which is what I would assume, given what we've seen of No Way Home, then yeah, Doctor Strange does exist in this continuity. Yep. Maybe not in the same way that he is in the MCU. This is clearly not the MCU, but it's similar enough. Also, the fact that they got to 3 Spider-Man movies without the TVA showing up means that they were very lazy at their jobs. What is wrong with you, Owen Wilson, unless the timeline split after timelines were allowed to split? Time travel's confusing, man. Fucking Loki was the show.
Speaking of other Marvel characters in this continuity. I'm pretty sure Wolverine was originally planned to make a cameo in the first film.
For Spider-Man?
Yeah, first Spider-Man movie. I'm pretty sure Wolverine was... The screenwriters originally planned to have Wolverine make a cameo in it. But they didn't have the rights to it, so they just scrapped that idea.
That's interesting.
And again, there's one fun Easter egg in this movie that ties into this, and I'll mention it later. There's a very specific time I have to mention this. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, Hoffman!
Yeah, that's the name of the guy who Jameson steals the name from.
Hoffman is played by Sam Raimi's brother.
Oh, the more you know.
What about the eight-legged fiend? Nah, that's crap. Doc Ock? Nah, that's crap. Doctor Strange? That's pretty good. But it's taken. What about Doc Ock? I love it.
Speaking of Jameson, after the bank heist, he sends Peter to a big party at the planetarium to work as a photographer. And at the planetarium, Peter runs into Harry, who's drunk and mad at him for the "tell me who Spider-Man is so I can murder him" shit. And B, he meets Jameson's son and his new fiancée, Mary Jane Watson. Uh-oh.
Somebody done fucked up.
Spider-Man, his life's just fucking awful. He just decides at this point in the movie, well, Doc Ock is still out being Doc Ock. He doesn't wait to stop Doc Ock before he retires. He just throws his suit in the trash, which is an exact recreation of the comic book panel from the story that inspired this. But yeah, Spider-Man quits, and now his life is good. He's actually going to college. He's happy.
He also has that scene where he meets with a doctor because his vision starts to go, and he's unable to produce web fluid, and he's losing his strength, so he's becoming normal again. And a lot of people that I've seen have criticized the movie for this sort of arbitrary loss of powers that just kind of goes and then comes back. I strongly disagree. He meets with a doctor, and the doctor says perfectly well. It's like, it's all in your head. He doesn't say it's Spider-Man. He has this whole, I have a dream where I'm Spider-Man.
Okay,
and then
buddy.
The doctor is like, well, honestly, I think it's a mental block. It's a mental thing where he's struggling. It perfectly fits well with the themes of the movie, and it also fits well with his character because he is mentally struggling with literally everything. Mm-hmm. And he is at this point in his life where he's like, I want to be Peter Parker, but I also know that I have to be Spider-Man. And he has this beautiful moment, dream sequence with the memory of Uncle Ben, where he tells him, he's like, I'm Spider-Man, no more. That is heartbreaking. Because you know what that is? That is Peter Parker, a man that has been beaten down his entire life, this entire movie, beaten down, giving up. He gives up. It is heart-wrenching.
It is. It really is. Like, he tells Uncle Ben, I can't live your dream anymore. I want to be Peter Parker. I want to have a life. It's a great scene. Also, minor thing, that doctor, he knows he's Spider-Man just based on how they talk. But doctor patient confidentiality. You're a good doctor if you don't tell the world that your client is Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From immediately after that, we get the raindrops are falling on my head scene.
I'm happy that I'm not Spider-Man. I go to Mary Jane's play and she stares at me from the stage, not talking for 3 seconds. Like, Mary Jane's a shitty actress.
Yeah, she is. Peter, he's no longer Spider-Man, and he starts succeeding as Peter Parker. He's happy, living his life, dancing along to Raindrops Are Falling on My Head, as opposed to the jazz song that he dances along to in Spider-Man 3. He takes a big-ass bite out of a hot dog. That scene is so cheesy, even with the freeze frames of him smiling. It's so fucking funny and cheesy, but I love it because it's just Sam Raimi having fucking fun, you know?
Yeah.
That's just not just Sam Raimi, that's everybody having fun. Yeah. You know, it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man, you know, to have fun.
I would like, in this next sequence of Spider-Man quitting being Peter Parker, wait, no, the opposite of that, Peter Parker quitting being Spider-Man, I would like to point out 2 moments that make me kind of hate characters in this movie. Number 1, Peter meets with Aunt May and he finally reveals to her, I was responsible for Uncle Ben's death. And naturally, Aunt May, the sweet, caring old lady, says, "Oh, Peter, it's not your fault. I still love you." Nah, JK. She storms off without saying anything. What the fuck, Aunt May?
Again, this movie does a really great job of understanding who Peter Parker is as a character. The fact that he is just beaten down by life and people and everything.
And Aunt May.
Even Aunt May. Like, they even find a way to implement drama with Aunt May.
Yeah.
It is fucking crazy.
And the other thing, Peter goes to Mary Jane and's like, "Hey, I guess I want to be with you again. So just cancel that wedding and hook up with me because I'm in love with you. I'm kind of a dick right now. But I quit being Spider-Man for you, which means you have to love me. Like, why are you saying no because you're happily engaged? Like, Peter, date someone else. Like, what is with his obsession with Mary Jane Watson? In comics, he loves her and is on and off with her, but he has other love interests. In this continuity, it is singular. For like 10 years straight, the only girl he ever thinks about. He's like fucking Charlie in Always Sunny.
Which kind of is fitting because at one point Mary Jane was a waitress. Now that he's been enjoying life and he's no longer Spider-Man, he starts noticing all the problems that the city and people are suffering with due to the fact that he is no longer Spider-Man. And he sees a newspaper headline saying that crime is up 75%.
Excuse me?
That's a fucking lot of crime.
I know. Hold on. Time. This is New York City. It's a big city. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of crime. I looked it up. In 2004, which is when this movie takes place, there were 85,000 violent crimes in New York City. And Spider-Man is stopping about half of them? Are you fucking kidding me? No, he's not. It would have been like slight increase in crime. Even in the comics, like, Spider-Man quitting wouldn't cause 75% increase. Like, that's like every single superhero quits at once.
There was this video I saw of a breakdown of why do people live in Gotham City if it's allegedly just such a crime-ridden shithole? And,
I mean, the two of us live in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. The point is, Gotham City, Batman. If it's so horrible, why do people live there? And the video essay broke down, like, logically, it's actually not that bad. It's no worse than Chicago.
I mean, honestly, sure. Because all the gang and mafia stuff that already existed in Gotham was replaced by the supervillains. That's what The Long Halloween is about. So the crime rate has stayed the same, it's just different. Like, now the mobsters that stick you up are dressed in multicolored suits and their boss keeps flipping a coin.
Point is, 75% increase in crime? It's a lot. Peter happens across an apartment building is on fire, and he rushes in to save the life of a little girl. As great and inspirational as this scene is, it does feel tacked on. It feels like a reshoot. Just, there's not a lot of action. And there's not. For a long period of time, there's not a lot of action in this movie. Like superhero action. But that's because the film's priority is fleshing out the character of Peter Parker and his drama within his character. From that perspective, they do incredible work, like dramatically, comedically, from a character perspective all around. But they also, when it's time to have the action scenes, they go all out with them. And we'll get into that as we go on.
Honestly, I'm going to disagree. Not on that the movie's good with its drama and action scenes. I'm going to disagree that you feel the burning building was tacked on. I feel like that's one of the key emotional stuff in the movie. There's this burning building, and he does not have his powers right now when this happens. He runs into this burning building to save the day. He finds this little girl and carries her out of the burning building. But as he does, he hears one of the firefighters say, "Yeah, there was a man on the 4th floor. We couldn't get to him at the time." And it breaks him, and that's what makes him finally decide to go back to being Spider-Man. Also, I'd like to note, because this is kind of similar to a scene in the first movie, I half expected, like, he's holding this little girl wrapped in a shawl. "It's okay, I'm gonna save you. Surprise, it's me, Norman Osborn!" Mwahaha!
Yeah, well, side note, there is this really funny behind-the-scenes footage of this movie that's been circling Instagram and TikTok and social media in general, where Sam Raimi is telling Alfred Molina on the set of that scene where they're filming the fusion reactor. He's like bringing him on the set, like, "Hey Alfred, come on, I want you to see this. I want you to see this something. We have this something to show you." And they bring him on there. Alfred Molina sees the set. He starts dying laughing, and then the camera pans over to Willem Dafoe in the Doc Ock arms, acting out the scene instead of him. And it's just a fun prank that Sam Raimi pulled. It was just really fun.
I kind of wish every villain in the series was played by Willem Dafoe. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, both Venom and Sandman at the same time are Willem Dafoe.
Yes, absolutely. Let me correct myself from what I said earlier. I do think, to an extent, it does feel a little tacked on, but I think what they were going for is a key dramatic plot point, and I understand and appreciate that. That said, in terms of execution, I don't think it was handled as well.
So, going on with the plot of the film, Doc Ock has all the money which he used to buy shit to rebuild his machine. Who is he buying from, by the way? I feel like this stuff would be hard to come from.
He essentially needs more tritium, and the only person that has that is Harry Osborn, whom he confronts. I will like to say, it's at this point when watching the movie, I was like, this dude is like straight up villainy.
I know, and
like,
I'll get into this later. But
there's a scene where he went from this loving husband who just is kind of an arrogant scientist who loves his wife, and then in the movie, at one point, he's fucking smoking a stogie, wearing shades, and he's got these mechanical arms that he controlling his mind that he is using to make a machine with parts that he paid for with money he stole, and the other parts are stuff that he, almost killed people over.
Yeah, and he goes to Harry Osborn, and Harry's like, "I'll give you the magic crystals that you need to power your machine." I mean, tritium exists in real life, but it's a gas, not a magic crystal. So I'm going to say that his machine runs on magic yellow crystals. I'll give it to you if you bring me Spider-Man so I can kill him. Meanwhile, Peter goes on a date with Mary Jane, where she's like, "You know what? Sure, I will leave my fiancé with you. I want to try things." And he's like, "Oh, actually, Mary Jane, about that. I think I'm gonna go back to being..." Well, it doesn't say Spider-Man, but like, I don't think this is gonna work out. Peter leaving Mary Jane so it can be Spider-Man is good. It's the arc of the movie. But I'm not sure the actual execution is the best at times. Peter just comes across as an asshole.
Yeah, very true. This is also after the scene that we mentioned earlier where I am convinced that Aunt May has knowledge that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Right.
Because she's moving out of her house. Like, that conversation where she had, people need a hero. And I will say, as great as this moment, this subplot of Peter being Peter and not Spider-Man anymore, as great as the moments are, in hindsight, it does take up a big chunk of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like my two complaints with this movie. I think Doc Ock could have been a better villain. He's a good villain. I think he could have been better, and I'll get into that. And the other thing is, I feel this movie, it's a bit too slow-paced. I feel the stuff with Peter getting beat down, it gets a little repetitive at a point.
Yeah, here's my take on the pacing. The first one, I feel like overall is better paced because I feel like at first it kind of like is finding its traction because it takes a while to get to the point where Peter is Spider-Man. It takes a while to get to that point. But the second film, it gets right into, he's Spider-Man, this is what is resulting of that. That said, I think with the first one, it was a more cohesive pacing, whereas with this one, it starts off strong, then it kind of slows down, and then it starts to pick back up a little bit. So the pacing does feel more uneven, and I think the first one did it better. It is a bit long. Honestly, surprisingly, it didn't bother me. That subplot, it's like a half an hour almost. Yeah, it goes on for a long time. I wasn't necessarily bothered by it, but it just, in hindsight, I was like, that's a long time. Yeah. Then, Harry Osborn says that you can find Spider-Man through Peter Parker because Peter Parker takes photos of Spider-Man, which is why him and Harry have had such a turbulent relationship, and that's why Harry bitch slaps him twice back to back.
Why did I do that to myself?
I don't know.
Did they even show up on the recording? I don't know.
I don't know. The point is, Doc Ock knows that in order to get to Spider-Man, he needs to go through Peter Parker. So he could, theoretically, approach Peter Parker with his giant, evil, mechanical arms and be like, tell me where Spider-Man is, or I will hurt you. But instead, he throws a fucking car at him. And then slams him against a brick wall.
I like that. Like, imagine what Harry would say. Okay, I didn't find Spider-Man because I killed Peter Parker. You killed Peter Parker? Yeah, but give me the tritium, please. Yeah. I want it. Also, you know what's something I've kind of realized? So Peter's whole thing is, I can't be with Mary Jane because people will hurt her to get to me because I'm Spider-Man. Except in this movie, Mary Jane gets hurt anyway, even if he isn't Spider-Man. So just get with her, you know.
I mean, Doc Ock does say, tell Spider-Man to find me, or I'll peel the flesh off her bone.
Oh boy. Ugh. And we have reached the reason why everyone loves this movie. It's the greatest scene in this movie. I feel like I don't hate any Spider-Man movies. I think they all have something of merit. And they all have just this one really great, amazing scene that I love. The double jeopardy, like holding up the trolley scene in the first one. The crane scene and the saving the boy on the bridge in Amazing Spider-Man. The final scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Saving Vulture in Homecoming. Closing his eyes and dodging all of Mysterio's attacks in Far From Home. Every Spider-Man movie has that one scene that everyone just adores and is amazing. And this one is better than all the others. Mm-hmm. The train scene. Peter and Doc Ock have a cool fight that eventually goes into a train and they're fighting on the side of it. And it's really, really good action. But then Doc Ock breaks the train's brakes, so it's going out of control and it's gonna go off a cliff. Why is that train driving towards a cliff? Like, the tracks just end in the middle of New York City. Also, I'm pretty sure Manhattan doesn't have an L train.
I don't know.
Like, they filmed that in Chicago. Whatever. The point is, the train is going out of control. So what does Spider-Man do? Well, he goes in front of the train and he shoots webs out and he is pulling. He is being torn apart as he is using his body to pull this train to a stop. And yeah, he looks like he's taking a big old shit. But God, it's awesome.
Yes.
If an action scene can have You Say Run put on it, it is a good action scene. It's a fantastic scene.
They really do the best they can to utilize the most creativity and the most thrills out of this situation. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a point where they're fighting on top of the train and the walkway above them, so they have to duck. And then they end up on the sides of the train. And then Spider-Man has to crawl through the train. And then Doc Ock starts throwing people off the train. And Spider-Man has to save them. Then Spider-Man gets thrown off the train, and he has to, in that scene in Into the Spider-Verse, where they're running alongside on the streets, he has to maneuver through the cars, and then he has to stop the train from falling off the fucking cliff. It is fucking spectacular. One of the best action scenes in any superhero movie.
It is amazing. And the ending of the scene is great too, because the people on the train just carry Spider-Man back in. He's injured. He's not wearing a mask because we need to see Tobey Maguire's shit face. And they're like, oh God, he's just a kid, no older than my son. Then Doc Ock shows up and they just all get in front of Spider-Man. Like, you want to get to him, you have to go through me. Mm-hmm. And Doc Ock just shoves them all away.
That scene was, again, really incredible because you see New York City, the people supporting their hero. And it's amazing. And these two little boys walk onto the train with his mask. Like, yeah, that's you. Also, I'm pretty sure those were Tobey Maguire's younger brothers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And all the people are like, we'll keep your secret. They see this kid who is the hero, and they're like, no, we'll keep your secret, we'll keep your anonymity, and we'll protect you against the giant cyborg sociopath. My thing with this scene is the first guy that's like, if you want to get to him, you got to go through me. That's Joey Coco Diaz, a stand-up comedian.
Maybe it is Joey Coco Diaz in the context of the film. Like, he was just riding the L train that doesn't exist in New York.
It's so funny. You watch the Joe Rogan podcast, you hear the story, the true stories that man has to tell. That man was on drugs from the 70s up until today. On a different drug each decade. And he tells stories. He has some of the craziest, most obscene, absurd stories ever. This is the man that is defending Spider-Man to Doc Ock, saying, if you want to get to him, you got to go through me. The guy that once told this... I don't even think I'm not even going to mention the stories he's told. But I just think it's so funny, knowing who Joey Diaz as a comedian, the guy who once said that the cure to cocaine addiction is by doing heroin on Mondays so that you won't feel the need to do cocaine until the weekends. That man is the one that's defending Spider-Man right now.
And I'm sticking to that character in the movie is just that comedian. I don't know his name. I don't watch the
he does a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, but I just imagine that in the context of the movie, he is still that. So, like, just coked out of his mind, like, well, this train is going faster. It's probably just the cocaine.
Yeah.
God, that's a great scene. Oh, and
is that fucking Spider-Man?
One other minor thing. Like, Spider-Man, like, actually brushes the people away and allows Doc Ock to take him away. Because he loves the people of New York just as much as they love him.
Absolutely.
So Doc Ock brings Spider-Man back to Harry and then goes off to build his son in New York Harbor. Son with a U. He's not going to build a mini Otto, Octavius. And Harry grabs a knife and pulls off Peter's mask and it's Peter Parker! And he has, like, Spider-Man chained up, and Spider-Man immediately just snaps the chains because he has super strength.
One thing I would like to say, that is a very dramatic point, and I love how this franchise, up until the third film, is developing Harry Osborn as, like, the next villain. The problem is they squandered that for the third film. Thank you for the studio. I believe so, yes.
I have very mixed. If he was the sole villain, he would have been a great... Or even if it didn't need 3 villains.
Nope. Not at all. They did not need Venom.
No.
Thanks, studio.
So, Harry pulls off Peter's mask and, like, gasp, you're Peter Parker, my close friend. And Peter does not explain that he didn't kill Norman Osborn. Like, and he doesn't after the movie, after Doc Ock is stopped. Like, you could have avoided the plot of the third one if you just told your friend, I did not kill your father. However, he's like, we can talk about this later. Doc Ock, that really, really jumped off the deep end immediately supervillain who you sent to murder me. And he threw a car into a cafe and almost killed Mary Jane. Yeah, he has Mary Jane and is gonna kill her. What? Who could have foreseen this?
I did think it was funny. For every review, I watch the movie and I watch other critics' reviews of it. Just to formulate my opinions, see whether or not I agree or disagree. One internet YouTube critic I watched for this episode was Nostalgia Critic. And I know he's not the greatest, but I don't know, I just watched his video because why not? He actually brought up a good point. All Peter Parker had to say in this scene was, Harry, I wouldn't give up who Spider-Man was, so he put me in a Spider-Man costume and gave me to you. I'm not Spider-Man. That's all he had to say.
Yeah, but he's a bad liar. Also, like, he snaps the chains like, I've been working out, Harry. I'm not Spider-Man.
Yeah, very true. He didn't have to do that. That's my point.
Well, then how would he get out to go save Mary Jane?
He could have just been... Harry could have untied him, for all we care.
Does Harry have the key? Because, like...
He had a knife with him.
Well, they're metal chains. He's just gonna slowly... Yeah, they were metal, I think.
No, they were like wire.
Well, wire is metal!
Well, like wires mean string.
Fair enough. I don't even remember. It's been like a few days since I actually watched the movie. Peter goes off to stop Doc Ock. And I'd like to say my big thesis about Doc Ock in this movie. I think Doc Ock is a bit overrated as a villain. I think Sandman and Green Goblin do what he does better. So here's my problem with Doc Ock. He's a really fun villain, like just seeing Alfred Molina be this cartoonish, evil supervillain that my classmate wants to kidnap and rape her. That is really, really fun. He has swagger, you know? But I feel like they don't put enough focus on this fatal flaw of his arrogance, and I feel that the relationship between him and Peter could have been better, like could have been built up more before he becomes a supervillain, so it's more tragic. And I feel, God, he goes evil so quickly. He was gonna murder Aunt May in like his third scene.
Yeah.
I think he's a great villain. I think there were aspects of him that could have been a bit better.
Okay. In addition to that, this is also in comparison to the Spider-Man PS4 game, which has one of the best portrayals of supervillain ever, like in non-comic book media, in the form of Doc Ock. You see, it's this man descending into villainy through mental illness. You see, he's diagnosed with a disease where he'll lose all motor functions, so that's why he starts relying on the octopus arms, and because of that, that leads him into villainy. Like, the progress of Doc Ock in the Spider-Man game, PS4 game, it's a slow and gradual process that leads to a massive payoff. So, in fairness, this is in comparison to like a 20-hour video game that has an incredible story.
I have not played the PS4 game, although I have heard it has a great Doc Ock. Honestly, Doc Ock, you think, oh, he's just a lame supervillain? He's very good at getting great portrayals. This, his female version, alternate universe version, Live and Into the Spider-Verse is really fun. He's great in the PS4 game. Which, was it Spectacular or Ultimate Spider-Man that had Tom Kenny play him as like...
I'm pretty sure, I don't know about Spectacular, but I
think it was Ultimate, where
Ultimate.
It's this odd, like, creepy, mentally ill version played by Tom Kenny. That was great. Doc Ock has a lot of good portrayals over the years.
He's a great villain, which, again, on theory, he's a guy with fucking octopus arms on his back, and he wears a giant yellow and green jumpsuit. He could have been stupid, but Alfred Molina fucking kills him.
And also, one more thing on Doc Ock. I know it's a really controversial storyline. I love the version of Doc Ock and his character arc in Superior Spider-Man. Like, I like Doc Ock becoming a good guy. Like, it had Peter on the bench for a year, but who cares? It gave some great development to Otto.
I don't know. I still think Doc Ock is a very compelling villain.
He is.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with. They probably could have strengthened Doc Ock and Peter's relationship. I'll give you that. Maybe focusing more on his arrogance as opposed to, it's the machines are messing with his head. Maybe it's more of a debate on which is actually happening. Like, is it him or is it the machines? Is he going insane or is it legitimately the AI? But at the same time, that could have taken away from the development of Peter Parker's character.
True.
So, in my mind, it's very, very tricky to have an incredibly well fleshed out, like in a movie like this, it's very hard to have a very well fleshed out and complex hero while at the same time having a very well fleshed out and complex character of a villain. Like, it's been done. It can be done, but it's very, very challenging because you got to spend time either focusing on the villain or you got to focus on the hero. The best example of this in my mind is the prequel to The Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon. There are 2 film adaptations of it. There's Manhunter, made by Michael Mann.
He made a movie about hunting himself.
And there's Red Dragon. Manhunter does an incredible job of fleshing out the protagonist, Will Graham. They do an incredible job of giving him a character arc and fleshing out his story. Whereas the villain, Francis Dollarhide, the Tooth Fairy, who's a serial killer, he doesn't have as much of a focus. He's not quite as compelling. Whereas in Red Dragon, Francis Dollarhide is the star of that show, that movie. His arc is incredibly well handled. Whereas Will Graham, not as much. So the point is, yes, I do think Doc Ock could have been fleshed out better, but I think that could have been at the expense of the incredible arc Peter Parker has.
It's a tough thing to balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've reached the climax. Peter goes to Doc Ock's. So is it just in the ruins of his old lab? It is, right? Like, he wasn't hard to track down. Throughout the whole movie, he's just building in the place where he already owns.
Yeah, pretty much.
Also, why was that laboratory in the middle of the river anyway? Or maybe...
In case they needed to dump it.
I guess that makes sense. Which, I'll explain the physics problems.
I was half joking about that.
I'll explain the physics problems in a moment. But yeah, Peter goes there as Doc Ock turns on his mini sun and it immediately goes out of control and is about to destroy the world. Oops, who could have predicted this?
You would have thought. He has Mary Jane tied up because she's a damsel in distress again.
Hopefully it won't happen the third time.
No. And apparently, if I'm understanding this correctly, Sam Raimi went into Spider-Man 3 saying, Mary Jane's not going to be a damsel in distress anymore.
Wasn't that the only way you could get Kristen Dunst to come back? And then studio interference.
And then studio...
The damsel in distress. Although I don't know if it's intentional, supposed to be an arc. Mary Jane gets better at being a hostage over time. In the first one, she's just, kidnapped. In this one, she picks up, a pipe and swings it at Doc Ock's head. And it fails. He just knocks it out of her hand. But you tried, honey. And in the third one, she chucks bricks at Venom. Mm-hmm. She's getting better at this hostage thing.
Yeah.
By the 10th hostage kidnapping, she'll take out the villain before Peter even shows up.
At a point, it'll be like Megamind, but she's like, dude, seriously, just fucking let me go. Seriously, you know how this is gonna go. I also love how she's like, you have what you want, just let me go. Seriously, dude, she seems so over it in that moment. Dude, fucking come on, just let me go.
Yeah, why doesn't he just let her go?
Because she'll bring the police.
Oh, right, he does say that.
Yeah, didn't you watch the movie?
It was 4
Anyway, let's continue. Peter Parker shows up, Doc Ock stops him. They just start beating the hell out of each other, which, side note, Spider-Man has superhuman strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doc Ock just has a normal face.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Spider-Man, he pulls his punches. That is very true about him. Every time he punches a person, he's pulling a lot. But, I mean, still, it should hurt like hell to get punched by him.
Very true. Peter has his mask ripped off, and Doc Ock sees, oh shit, this kid that was kind of a pseudo-mentor, or I was a mentor to. Yeah, he's Spider-Man, the guy that I've been spending the last few months trying to kill. Okay, that's crazy.
Small world.
Peter convinces him, no, this is wrong. You have to break through the brainwashing. You gotta deal with this. Doc Ock takes control of the arms. Peter goes to save Mary Jane, who now understands, oh shit, you're Spider-Man.
Yeah, he holds up a big heavy wall that almost falls on her, which is really nice.
I also love that moment where he's like, this is really heavy.
And Doc Ock redeems himself by fixing his mistake and destroying this artificial sun by pushing it into the river. It doesn't create any steam. That bugs me. And also, I'm pretty sure that you can't destroy nuclear fusion by pouring water onto it, because it's a mini sun, and the sun is burning hydrogen, so just adding more hydrogen. Whatever. The physics in this movie don't really work. The point is, Doc Ock, he dies pushing the sun into the ocean, except he doesn't because he's back and far from home. Or how is that gonna work?
I think it's an alternate reality. Different dimension version of that character.
Yeah. No way home is what I meant. But yeah, Doc Ock's dead. Mary Jane knows Peter's Spider-Man. How's this movie gonna end? With Mary Jane leaving John at the altar. I mean, we don't see enough about him to really know if he deserves that, but I mean, he seemed nice enough. He was worried when she got kidnapped. That was a dick move. Say the day before the wedding, not during the wedding, that you're gonna leave him. Come on, Mary Jane.
John Jameson III, that literally could have been anything. It didn't have to be Jameson's astronaut son. It could have been literally anybody. It would have been no different. Yeah, she just leaves him. She leaves this guy she seems to have a genuine connection with. Or at least seems to have a genuine love and respect, admiration, and connection with. For a guy who's lied to her for decades. This guy who's been hiding his emotions from her. And then when she expresses emotion, he retreats from her. And then when she's dating this new guy, he starts making advances on her. Then when she responds, he retreats back from her. So she goes with this guy. Thanks, Mary Jane.
Peter and Mary Jane do not have a healthy relationship. Hopefully it will not get worse in the third one.
Yeah, no. One thing that I have been saving this entire review You know how I mentioned like sort of MCU connections connected to the MCU? There was originally in the first one there's going to be a Wolverine cameo or whatever. In that scene where Mary Jane is running in her dress to Peter Parker's apartment, it's all nice and happy and cheesy and stuff.
Good thing he lives close to the church because, like, oh god, it's a mile. I'm in this really tight dress. Oh god, I feel like shit.
Again, that's another cheesy moment it's just Sam Raimi and the filmmakers having fun. I don't know if you noticed this, Casey, but in that scene where she's running, facing the camera, to our right, her left, there's a guy walking past that like turns and sees her run. He's wearing all black, and he turns and sees her run. That character, he's just watching her run. It's this, you wouldn't think about it anything else.
I didn't think about it. I don't know where you're going with this.
That character is played by Thomas Jane, who that same year played the Punisher. That was an MCU connection. The Punisher is in this movie.
Well, to be fair, is the Punisher in the MCU.
He's fucking in this movie. Thomas Jane, as the Punisher, makes a cameo in that scene. When Mary Jane is running towards the camera, and it is Thomas Jane. He's blurred out. But like Thomas Jane, who played the Punisher in that same year this movie came out, 2004, makes a cameo as the Punisher in this movie.
So, it could just be the same actor, but let's say it isn't. So these three...
They don't get Thomas Jane for nothing.
So these three and that Punisher movie take place in the same part of the Marvel multiverse. The MCU takes place in a different but connected part that both versions have J.K. Simmons' Jonah and Alfred Molina's coming back. And then the Netflix Marvel Punisher may be an MCU, but I'm gonna say no at this point.
No.
The point is multiverse. And the bigger point is Peter and Mary are together. And this is a happy ending. Also, Harry's gonna fucking murder Peter now. He discovers all of his father's shit. I guess Green Goblin just kept all of his bombs and knives and shit at the apartment. Plus like 10 extra doses of turn you into Green Goblin serum. Why did he have that?
I don't know. I do like that final scene with Peter and MJ because MJ is like, no, you say this is what's best for us, but I also have a say in this. I love you and I want to be with you. Again, their relationship is a bit turbulent, maybe a bit toxic, some might argue, but I do love that final shot of her telling him, go get him, Tiger, and he goes to save the day. But Mary Jane watches him swing away, and the look on her face is honestly one of sadness, because it's like, oh, I'm alone. This is the life I've chosen now, and that's not good. But
I sure hope that he sells his marriage to Satan soon, because I don't want this relationship anymore.
But yeah, with Harry Osborn, it sets up Green Goblin 2.0 in the next one.
Yeah.
Which that movie should have just focused on Green Goblin 2.0 and Sandman.
Yeah. Although, also, speaking of, I brushed past it, but he doesn't just find his father's gear. He's guided there by the ghost of Norman Osborn, who is speaking to him, and also Norman Osborn, after being driven insane by the serum, talked to the same person? Like, is that an actual spirit that exists? Because, A, Harry doesn't have the goblin serum, so it can't be him hallucinating because of that. And B, it shows him where the lair is. Like, it gets him to throw a knife at the wall that the lair is behind, and that's how he discovers it. But the point is, a hallucination gives Harry information he doesn't know. That, like seeing Green Goblin in the mirror, is an actual evil force that is the big bad of No Way Home. I'm calling it now. So, overall, as we've said many times throughout this review, this is a damn good Spider-Man movie. It, I would argue, is probably the best live-action Spider-Man movie.
It is.
Yeah, I'd say that.
It is.
It's slightly better than Spider-Man 1 and a bit better than Homecoming.
It has a lot better CGI than the first Spider-Man.
Yeah, stupid 2002 movie not having good CGI.
I know, right? What the fuck? Why can't you just exist in 2021 like a fucking civilized movie, you know?
God. The
fucking
art
lazy
for Peter in this movie is amazing. It's filled with these phenomenal scenes. Not just the train scene, the meeting with Uncle Ben, Spider-Man saying, why am I not allowed to be happy? The, like, bank fight is really fun. The horror aspects of Rosalie Octavius's death and Doc Ock killing the doctors. Overall, this is just a fantastic movie in pretty much every way.
There's some minor flaws and nitpicks we have with it that I have. But honestly, this movie is, honestly, rewatching it, it's top 5 superhero movies.
It's up there.
Like, honestly, for me, I might have told the story when we reviewed the first Spider-Man movie, but when I was a kid, my parents, love my parents to death. I don't have any gripes about how I was raised. What I'm saying is, when the kids in my grade were getting their brand new iPhones and playing Call of Duty, my parents were almost okay with me watching SpongeBob. That was the level of, like, content that I was allowed to consume as a kid. My parents were just okay with me watching SpongeBob, like, into the 3rd or 4th grade. Not disrespecting them at all. Like, that's what they felt was necessary, and I feel like I turned out fairly well. But that said, when I was 3 years old, my dad came home. I was watching, like, fucking Caillou or Sesame Street or whatever the fuck. And my dad came home from work, like, hey, bud, you want to see this new movie? It just came out on DVD. It's called Spider-Man. And it was the first film. And I fucking loved it. As a 3-year-old child, fucking loved it. Then the sequel came out very shortly after, actually. And I watched it, fucking loved it. This and the previous one were my childhood. This movie is so incredibly nostalgic for me in the way that toxic Star Wars fans will just blow up a comment section anytime anyone mentions something even remotely critical about Revenge of the Sith. That's this movie for me. So I understand where they're coming from, those Star Wars fans. That said, your movie's not as good as this one.
No,
By
it
any
isn't.
stretch of the fucking imagination, you are fucking delusional if you disagree with me.
Jeez.
But
I mean, you're not wrong, but it's okay, man. It's okay.
I know, but I've had a lot of people in my comment sections blowing it. Whatever.
We're never gonna end up reviewing any good Star Wars movies or the prequels on this show because it's, well, we'll say that in a later episode.
But yeah, this movie is so incredibly nostalgic for me, and I'm so incredibly happy that as an adult, I find that it's legitimately a great movie. Like, the technical aspect of this movie is incredible. Some of the special effects haven't aged quite as well, but for 2004, they're fantastic. And for today, they're not that bad. Honestly, this movie is one of my favorites, and as a filmmaker, I'm going to say it right now, this is the kind of movie I'd want to make.
It's a damn good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one was the highest rated superhero movie we ever did on this show. You gave it an 8.5, I gave it a 9.
But more than Superman?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
And I think the
Shows
first
how much-
one was better than Superman.
Okay. Shows how much I pay attention, I guess.
But the point is, if this one is already better than that one, we love this movie. How good numerically for the tier list?
Honestly, I have a couple nitpicks. I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. I fucking love this movie. This movie is my childhood. It is incredible. It has some flaws, but goddamn do I love it.
You talked about nostalgic. Just the moment this movie starts and you hear that Spider-Man
Danny
theme.
Elfman's theme.
Yeah, it's just, you're in for a good time. And I don't believe in objective criticism, but grading based on nostalgia isn't good, which is good, because I don't have to, because everything in this movie is so good. And overall, it's a 9 out of 10. That train scene pushes it up, I would say, to a 9.5. This is a phenomenal movie. It is the best superhero movie made before 2005. And maybe best before 2000.
You mean the following year?
Well, it was better than the anything in the 30 years before it, and it might be better than Batman Begins. That's a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not as good as The Dark Knight.
I haven't seen Batman Begins in years, so I can't really count it. Yes, it is the best Marvel movie ever made up to that point, and I don't know, give it, 4 years until they make Iron Man and the MCU? And
I think this is better than... I think that...
Oh yeah, I think it's better than Iron Man.
I think in terms of movies based on Marvel Comics, I think this had a solid 8 years until the Avengers before I would say there was a better movie.
Fair enough.
Damn, this is a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And next week, we're watching a movie based on a book about, like, worms and, like, force field shields. So you have to do knives, and it's on a desert planet made of, like, drug that give you psychic powers so your spaceships can work.
Sorry. I was like, literally, what the fuck are you?
I don't know what Dune is about. I've never read Dune. We're not doing the new one either. We're doing the old one.
Yeah, the one by David Lynch that he literally completely disowned.
Hey, David Lynch is a great director. I'm sure the work that he says is the worst thing he's ever done is on par with the best stuff he's ever done. I'm sure it will be a good movie. I know that the really long one by...
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, that guy, the really good director. I know that to do it properly, adapting the book, it could only do the first half, so there will be a part 2. I'm sure cramming it all into one in whatever year this was made, wasn't it the 80s?
84, I think?
Yeah, I'm sure that it will be a masterpiece. Who is in it? I know there's one, like, really oddball cast.
Something McLaughlin, the guy from Twin Peaks. Kyle McLaughlin. Patrick Stewart is in it.
Patrick Stewart's in it? Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just saying something. He's like, worms and knives and desert. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking? Oh, Dune.
Yeah, Dune. Brad Dourif's in it? I don't know.
Oh, he is? Oh, good for him.
Sting! That's the really weird cast member.
Yeah.
Why the fuck was Sting in Dune?
Because why the fuck not? You know?
I don't know. I know nothing about this. I know there's worms. I know the slow knife puncture shield and psychic powers for... I don't know anything about Dune.
I actually want to read the books.
Yeah. There's a lot of them, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's like
there was...
5.
I think there was... Yeah. Like 5 or 6. There was the first few were written by the original author, but then after he passed, his son and another author just continued the franchise. But I actually do want to read those books. I need to start reading more books.
But anyway,
we're watching Dune next week.
Yeah. But anyway, Riley, where can they find more about this show?
You can all find more on the show on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at Silver Age, Silver Screen, where we post updates to the show, and on occasion we post movie news. You can all find me, Riley Thorpe, at my YouTube channel, where I post all of my content on there. I have a brand new Marvel documentary series that I'm working on right now, so if you love Marvel, check that out. I have a couple short films on there. One of which has been featured in multiple film festivals. Yeah, I have a lot more content coming soon. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and my new Twitch account at Riley James Thorpe, where you can check out all my content there. A lot of fun stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at JarmsCasey, JarmesCasey. Also be sure to check out Hell of a Game, a D&D podcast I host. It's about this big race in Mad Max-style cars through hell. We're 4 episodes in. It's already descended into murder hobos. There was, I won't say it, but in the second episode, there was a thing that happened that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. Anyway, we'll be back next week, assuming we don't lose our powers. And then when we think we're regaining them, jump off the side of a building and, somehow don't break our necks. We didn't mention that. Spider-Man almost dies in that scene.
Oh, yeah. Also, that's something worth mentioning. In between the filming of the first and the second one, Tobey Maguire was in a pretty severe car accident, and he, actually broke his spinal cord.
Oh, Jesus.
And because of that, him and his managers and his lawyers were demanding more money from the studio, more money that the studio was willing to give him. So there was a very real possibility that Tobey Maguire would not return for this movie, and instead he would have been replaced by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay. Turns out Mysterio was the real Spider-Man all along.
So that scene where he's like whining, he's like, my back, where he's whining about that, that's basically a big fuck you to Tobey Maguire. Or not a big, it's like it's just messing with him, like, oh, how's your back feeling? You know?
Jeez.
So that was just him playing, having fun. It was just good fun.
Anyway, as always, I'm Casey Jarms.
And I'm Riley Thorpe.
And hey, it's just a movie. Don't lose your head about it. Especially not to a ladder.